All right, so with this text, instead of finding a font and using that to make the vectors, I brought in a raster, pretty low resolution raster from that Japanese Godzilla poster. And now I'm going to trace it, and I'm going to trace it with silhouettes. And that looks pretty good to me, nice and clean. I expand it, it gives me the vector shape. And you see, perfectly clean now. It's on its own layer. But I can improve it, I think. I'm going to break up those two shapes and then redraw those edges so they're not touching. Try to anyway. Oops. There we go. The nice thing about Japanese characters is they're meant to feel kind of brushed and hand done. So it's not about being perfectly clean and geometric like Western fonts. Okay, I liked the idea I saw in one of my references, this one, of playing with the negative space in the first character. And in theirs, they make the tail. I'm thinking I'll kind of make it into teeth maybe for this. So it'll be subtle. My son will like that. It's kind of how he draws Godzilla. So I don't like how smooth my pencil tool is going, so I'm going to shift its accuracy to be stronger. So it gets all of these idiosyncrasies of my movement here. There we go. Very subtle. And if I wanted to draw a little eye in there, just to remind you how to cut out shapes, I draw a new path like that. I close it. I select the two paths that are overlapping. Often you have to do that here. Hold down Shift, select both paths at once. Then I use the Pathfinder tool, and I exclude. And then I can fill that all in with black. And that cuts a hole in it for me, which is kind of fun too. And hopefully still makes it readable. Okay, so now if this is the vector I want to use, how can I play with it? Well, I'm not able to do kind of the curve along a path like I was able to do with fonts, but I can, of course, resize it. And here I'm just going to kind of hand place everything. Actually, I kind of like how that looks. So I'm not going to do a whole bunch of curving it or changing it. So let's say I like that. I'm going to save that as my Illustrator file, my text design. But just like I added the particulate filter for my background of my poster, I'm going to add that same particulate filter. Let me get to it here. Over the top. I'm going to shrink it down quite a bit. It's pretty large. I'm going to have that affect my kanji text a little bit. I'm going to trace that to be silhouettes. Zoom in so you can see it a little bit. So now that's overlapping with my kanji text. Hit return. Nope, didn't need to hit return. I'm thinking of Photoshop. Hit expand. Now it's all a vector shape, but it's a separate vector on a new layer. It's here. So now I'm going to select it all, and I'm going to fill it instead with white. And I'll see how that kind of cuts into my shapes. By having it as a separate vector shape, I can also move it around. And if I want to expand that kind of filter of texture, I like how that works a little bit better with the Godzilla. If I want to make it a little bit bigger, I can select it, and I can always add a white stroke, which will circle each of the little particulates. Make it bigger like that. That's a little too strong. Let's try just 1 point. So all these fun options, it's all about knowing how to manipulate them and how to recognize something that's well done. Maybe about that size, about half a stroke. Or a quarter of a stroke. There, I can live with that. Okay, now how do I cut that out of my black shapes? Well, just to be safe, I'm going to make a duplicate of this layer, copy it, edit it, paste it in place, turn off the lower one, put this one behind the white one, select both of these. So I have the overlapping paths, use Pathfinder, exclude that. Select outside of it. And then fill with solid black. So now it's all one vector shape with holes cut in it. The only problem is I now have to delete all these others, and it's a great example of where you might want to use this lasso selection tool. But I might want to keep some of the little particles, just not all of them. And that way I can select big chunks of those vectors and just erase them. So you can see it's not always simple to make things look messy, right? It's a design aesthetic you have to work towards. I'll often use this particulate filter and texture fill when I'm doing t-shirt designs just so they don't look so clean and so digitally perfect. And it's just because I'm more used to hand-done design. So a lot of digital imaging now is about making it look more like other types of media. That's true in the design world as well. Some of the most popular logos of the last few years have been logos that look like they're done with watercolor. It's just one example. Okay. So I kind of like how that works. Now I'm going to take that, I'm going to isolate it. Well, let's save my AI file first. And I like that it's pretty effective just with black and white without any special effects yet. That's working pretty well. But I'm going to take my layers, I'm going to turn off all the layers except for my new text treatment, and I'm going to save that with a new name as an EPS file to the desktop. Then I will bring that into my Photoshop file. Oh, not that one, this one. Here it is. Drop it on as a new smart object. Move it to where I want it. So you look at my sketch and kind of the size of it that I want. And it reminds me of East Asian movies that will have their title sequence first in their character-based text, and then they will overlay the Latin alphabet over the top of it. So this kind of shows both at once. Okay, now this is kind of what I wanted to show you here. If I'm happy with the effects I've chosen for the Godzilla, I can apply those same effects to the kanji text. And I'm almost happy with it. I'm just going to work with this gradient overlay one in particular. So if I double click on that, it will take me right there. And I just want it to be a little bit stronger overall. Want it to expand a little bit onto the A. And this can be very technical, just to get the exact right angles you want. So about like that. Take its opacity down just a little bit so that particulate comes through. Very nice. And the reason I changed it is so that the dissolve blend mode would give me a little bit more texture in the gradations overlay. You see that? That's because of the dissolve. Okay, so the more I take the opacity down, the stronger that is. All right, so I like that. I think that works pretty well. So now you can always check in your history. Do you like what I did with that or not? So that's what I had before, and that's what I had after. Yes, and I like that more. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is duplicate this layer. And it has all the same effects. And now I just take that whole effect block and I drop it onto the kanji text. And then I just turn that layer off. And so now I have all of those same effects on the kanji text, but I can make little adjustments where I need it. So the gradient overlay for this, let's reverse it. Now let's play with its opacity a little bit differently. All right. And there we have the full colored text treatment. Now the only other thing I might do to work with it is just play with the background. I could even play with the layer effects on my spot illustration itself. Like if I wanted to give the spot illustration a stroke around it. But for now, this is a good place to save it and to consider the job finished.